Hello, everyone. Welcome to another soulful sip contemplation. As always, before we start, I would like to invite you to grab one of your favorite drinks, tea, or coffee, or a glass of water, and join me for a cozy and intimate conversation about the beauty of digital connections. Well, the inspiration for this topic is coming from my personal life. Recently, I was into many discussions with my friends about digital communities. In my personal life, I am paying attention to how I use technology. And I am all for ethical use of technology, conscious use of technology, which really means that technology is a beautiful thing if we engage with it with the right intention. Coming back to some of my previous contemplations and conversations, the way that we engage with things shape our relationship, and that relationship in return shapes what we get out of that engagement. So, seen this way, if we can engage with technology intentionally, using it consciously with some specific boundaries and parameters in mind, and if we use technology in a way to enable us to communicate better, I truly believe that it can enable many beautiful things that is not possible within the boundaries of physical space. I will share many more examples, but let's go back a little bit in time. And I think my passion for this is coming from my own background. I am an international, currently recording this in United States, and I've been living away from my loved ones back at home in Turkey almost over the last 20 years. I left home for university degree in 2002, and it took me almost 20 years to create a more balanced lifestyle in which I can spend some physical space with my loved ones in Turkey more frequently. And during this transition time of 2 decades, I always relied on technology to be able to feel that connection with my loved ones while I was also chasing my dreams. I was also developing myself and my own career as an individual in the early stages of my life. So even before the pandemic time, I think I always had a warm relationship with technology because it really enabled me to connect with my family, with my friends. The first thing was phones, cell phones. Good old days during the college. We didn't have wide connections like we do through Zoom, but at least it enabled us to hear each other's voice. And that created some form of comfort while I was chasing my dreams in another location. Then, of course, during the pandemic, things started opening up more, and we had even more opportunities that really enable us to connect with each other at different levels. Now we can see each other, more visual interaction and more engagement. You can see my gestures, you can see my smile, you can feel my experience in a more immersive manner. And yeah, there are even more immersive ways of engaging with each other. And to me, this has always been an enhancer of my life instead of replacing social relationships in physical life. But of course, because I've been an international, I always had this positive point of view, but most of my local friends around me who maybe didn't have to go through these challenges of building a deeper relation with technology till the pandemic time, because in the pandemic, most of us were forced to build a relation with technology given the work situation and how we have to engage with our companies. But before that, not many people had to rely on technology in the way that I had to rely on. So I was always feeling like I had a warmer and more intimate relation with technology compared to my local friends who were cherishing the connections of physical interactions. And I would like to make a clarification. I am all for human connections in person if that's possible and feasible. Nothing is going to replace the warmth, the depth of a human hug, where you can just touch each other. You can just feel each other's energy. But when that is not possible, that is not feasible, why not to leverage the beauty of digital connections? Especially if we are really getting into conversations from an intellectual point of view to see different perspectives, to enrich our own worldview, digital can offer us so many opportunities where we can just dial in at the comfort of our homes, like I am doing right now, and reach to thousands and millions of people. We didn't have this opportunity before. Last year, I was speaking to some of the students from my high school, and someone was asking me about my international experiences and how I found a path to have that global experience that I had. Like, without those experiences, I wouldn't be able to know the world. I wouldn't be able to experience different things, see different point of views, and shape and refine and define my own view while also honoring and respecting all of life. And at the time when I started the journey 20 years ago, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have these digital communities that's available to us. So, in a more traditional fashion, my own path was to use education and through a quality education, get into top multinational organizations that are diverse enough to offer me global experiences. So, in that sense, I used education, then the corporate world to be able to experience the world, to be able to know myself. But today, everything is a lot more easier. You can just literally get into online communities, get into YouTube, start engaging with other individuals from different parts of the world, from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from different genders, from different generations. And can you imagine the richness you can get out of that experience that you have eyes to see? Another thing about the potential of this. You might know that I'm a graduate from Harvard Business School MBA program. And one of the things that I still love about that education is the fact that it helped us to see different point of views through the case method. For the ones who are not familiar with the case method is the presentation of a particular problem from a business. And as students, we are given this case, and everyone reads that 10 pages or 20 pages of documentation, and our take on the same documentation that we read is very different. So you get into a class of 90 people, and out of that case, you hear 90 different perspectives. And that is the magic of Harvard Business School that really enables you to see reality from different angles and to make a decision based on that, or to form your own opinions based on that. It's a muscle that you develop. I can say the same richness in my experience with New York. Although it was not a conscious choice when I was making a decision to live in New York, it turned out to be one of the best human experiences that I was able to have at earlier stages in my life. Because in today's world, New York is one of the biggest hubs of the world where you can see a mosaic of different cultures together. Yes, it's a beautiful, mind expanding culture in which you can learn more about the world, its history. It's a diverse culture of art, science, business coming together. And of course, it's beautiful to have opportunities to have these experiences in person. I was privileged enough to have those experiences in person. But again, when I started my journey, we didn't have the flexibility and freedom of the digital in a way that's possible and feasible today. So I had to pay a lot of money for my education. I had to go through quite a lot of personal challenges to be able to live in New York in the way that I had to experience the city. But today, everything is a lot more accessible through digital. And there's a beauty in that. Once again, I'm not suggesting to replace in-person connections. What I'm suggesting is to be a lot more open for the possibilities and connections and conversations that we can generate through digital. intimacy, into me see. How can we see each other? I think the most important thing is the intention and attention we bring to our engagement, whether it's in physical or whether it is in digital. Over the last few years, especially 2 years, I've been experimenting with various digital communities. And luckily, after the pandemic, most of the programs, most of the schools, most of the communities are continuing their journey in the digital format too. And I had quite a lot of successful examples, and I would like to share at least one of them to show what is possible. So, at least for the ones who are not very open to exploring digital connections or digital first connections, maybe this can reframe things in your mind too, and maybe you can be more open to try a couple communities that might be interesting for you. So, one of the first ones that I've been journeying together over the last year is Presencing Institute, ULab. For the ones who are not familiar, this is a framework. ULab is a framework that introduces the theory of you, in which we go through the journey of releasing our own assumptions from an egoistic and individual point of view, but surrender to whatever might emerge in the presence of a community. And from that connection to life and to each other, we create new possibilities, we create new opportunities. So it's a collective sensing experience in which we heal together. And through our feeling, healing, and sensing together, we create new possibilities that was not even there before. So it definitely requires a surrender, a release of your own patterns, your limiting beliefs. And the theory you as a framework helps you individually to go through that process. So when you come together in the digital context, this gives us an opportunity to experience that releasing, seeing things differently, and sensing things together as a community and see what will emerge out of that experience. So we were randomly actually distributed to some groups, circles, ULAB circles. And I was privileged and lucky enough to be a part of an international group of originally, I think, 6 or 8 different individuals. Our numbers have been changing over the time, but it was beautiful to see that people all around the world, without any history together, came together in a context with some basic guidelines. And we journeyed together in the first part of the journey 4 to 6 months. Then we were a part of a second journey. So we journeyed together almost for a year right now. And it's still going on because we found so much joy in it. We found so much depth. We found so much intimacy in it that it's a part of our own healing as participants. It's a part of our own co creation in which we bring all of ourselves, what is happening in our lives, and see our lives in the eyes of each other too. When I look into my life, of course, I have long-standing relationships from school, from my family, from my life. But all of them are quite limiting in terms of their scope. Most of them are bounded with their physical locations. I've been journeying in different countries, in different cities. I think I lived in more than 10 different cities. So that really complicates things and doesn't allow me to go deep all the time. But in this community, it's digital. It has been only digital, but we were able to build something so deep, so beyond the limitations of the physical that even in a limited time, with some limited interactions, I feel deeply connected. I feel deeply seen. I feel heard. I feel nourished at the end of each interaction. And just this week, actually, when we were sharing what is happening in our lives, this was one of the contemplations I shared with my circle. honoring and appreciating the beauty that we are able to create in that community, because we show up authentically. We show up with deep surrender, with deep connection to that life energy that resides within us. And through that connection, we just hold the space for each other, listen deeply. And this is another important thing about TRU and what we were reminded while we were going through the process. Deep listening. Communication. Communication is not mostly about speaking. There's a reason that we have one mouth and two ears. And deep listening requires a lot more surrender. We should go beyond our own limiting beliefs, our own ego that immediately thinks about what we are supposed to say next, or that immediately starts thinking about our own judgment about what we heard. Can you listen with an open mind, with an open heart, to really understand where the other person is coming from, with an openness, curiosity, coming from the root of kura, care. Can you just care to understand the other person? And if we just care to understand other person, we extend our curiosity. We listen with a deep heart, with an open mind. And what can emerge from that is such a nourishing, such an enhancing experience every time, because I just go there with full surrender, with childish curiosity to see what others will show me. Each time I gain something different out of it. So when we started the journey within the circles, we had a case clinic, and it was structured in a way to help us to present things from our lives as a case presenter and use it as an opportunity to see this particular issue from different angles with the trust and care of other individuals. So in the case clinic, one case presenter has the first 10 to 15 minutes to present a challenge that they're experiencing in their lives. They present this challenge in their own ways, introduce the key players, introduce the history, introduce the main questions that they're holding in their heart. And after that, the group takes some time to digest the experience silently. 2 minutes of silence. Just to digest the experience and see what emerged in us. Then we listen to that story deeply, with an open heart, with an open mind. And then each of the participants in the circle mirror back in their own styles. Some of them are mental, some of them are more emotional reflections. A poem might emerge. Some of them might be an image. Someone says, I've seen a butterfly. Someone might do some movement just to reflect how their body was feeling at the time of engagement. The beauty there is the richness of our individual perspectives coming together and giving the case giver a different opportunity to see the case from different angles. And this to me is the definition of, once again, beauty. Beauty is the unity of our diversity. We are all individuals with our unique life experiences, with our unique attention. And no one is able to see the reality the way that we do. And if we can truly ground ourselves in our own existence, in connection with the life energy, what is emerging from our engagement is going to be different. And when we see those differences, the same group of people looking at the case, but each one seeing a different reality, similar to the Harvard Business School case study, same mentality. Here in ULab, someone is presenting a challenge that they are facing in their life. It's not a business case, It's a life case. And here we are, as holders of the space, listening deeply, with care and curiosity, just reflecting what is emerging in us. And then that is leading into a generative conversation. Conversations means dancing together. One perspective creates another one. Another perspective inspires another one. And then we build on top of each other's point of views. And that creates a beautiful dance, beautiful conversation, going deeper, deeper, building on top of each other. And at the end of the session, we create beauty together through that differences coming together around a particular case creates a unity and bring different perspectives for the case giver to consider different options, different opportunities. And hopefully, out of those opportunities, take a different path, bring maybe more possibilities, and see things from a different angle that might enable them to elevate their consciousness to a level that they don't see the problem anymore. That's the beauty of digital connections. I think for this kind of connection to happen, we need a couple core ingredients. Yes, structure of the digital community is important. What we are going to discuss, the content, is important. The general guidelines and the principles around that connection is important. But it's also important to make sure that we are bringing diverse individuals together. And sometimes I think that's the sacrifice that we do in the physical spaces. In the physical space, it might not be that easy to find different cultures, different worldviews in the same city if you're not living in New York, which is quite an extraordinary privilege. But digital really enables us. In that group, we had 5 different nationalities, different cultural backgrounds, different business backgrounds. And that is what really creates beauty, because we are able to bring so different perspectives together. And like I said, this was not possible and feasible 20 years ago. I had to go through traditional ladders of getting a good education, through scholarships, getting into one of the best companies, from there getting my way to another business school. And that used to be the traditional path for one of the options, at least. But it was, like I said, costly, it was time consuming. But today it's a lot easier if we have the right intention. We can connect to the same diversity. We can bring the same richness of experiences into our lives digitally and complement that with in-person connections. At one point, I would love to meet with my digital circle in person too. So I think the key here is our intention that brings us together. If we intentionally come to a digital space with an open heart to see each other, intimacy, I think we can create that intimacy. Seen this way, I think content, digital content that brings us together, be it a business case in the Harvard Business School or a personal problem in the case of ULab Clinic, is an excuse. Content is an excuse for us as diverse individuals to sit together around the table and have conversations, dance together, share our different point of views. And then from that conversation, we will connect. And hopefully, if we repeat this dance, content, conversations, and connections, that can lead into communities, come into unity. And there are beautiful digital communities that are able to see each other because they come to the digital space with the intention, with the respect, with the love, with the curiosity that enables them to see each other deeply. Once again, this is not to replace the beauty of a beautiful human hug. But if that's not possible, if that's not feasible, why not? To open more space for the potential of digital spaces and use it as an opportunity to get to know ourselves better, to support each other, and through healing ourselves and through healing each other, by holding the space, by seeing each other, why not? To heal our world. I think that's it. um, I hope you consider this as an invitation for exploring more of the digital opportunities of digital communities. And in the future, I will be holding the space more myself as well. I hope you join me in those communities and be a part of the experimentation that we can go through together too. That's my definition of creating beauty. Bringing individuals with right intention together so that we can use beautiful content as an excuse to get into conversations, so that through the conversations we can connect and we can come into unity. So, more on that in the future. Please, if you're interested, follow my other channels and subscribe if you are not a member. And thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing into me. And till next time, remember that you are beautiful. You are uniquely individual. And that is actually what is enabling us to see the beauty of our diversity, to connect with our differences and bring more of it externally out in the world. Remember your beauty, connect to that internally, and inspire others to create more of it externally out in the world too. Thank you, everyone. Till next time.